Good morning. Today we will talk about the green economy. Nowadays, the biggest problem for humanity is climate change. Reasons of climate change derive from the economy, so we have to change it. This is why today we will talk about the new economic system, which is the circular economy, and about renewable resources, outlining the problems and the benefits. Then we will talk about the next step of the economy, which is the zero marginal cost of society, and at last we will make a final consideration, saying also our opinions.
In 1976, Milton Friedman received the Nobel Prize for his concept of a linear economy.
This is a sentence he pronounced: if capitalism worked as the socialists think an economic system ought to work, and provided a constant equality of living conditions for all, regardless of whether a man was able or not, resourceful or not, diligent or not, thrifty or not. If capitalism put no premiums on resourcefulness and effort, and not penalty on idleness or vice, it would produce only an equality of destitution.
What we can guess from there? The economic system promoted by Milton Friedman was an economic system in which the top goal was to maximize profit and minimize the cost, developing advantages for ourselves. About a decade later, in 1989, the Nobel Prize for Economics was awarded to Amartya Sen, who developed a concept of circular economy. This concept of the economic system was based on welfare economics, social choice theory, and long-term development. Here, the aim was to create values, optimize the value chain, and research advantages for all the people. So through this, we can already see the changements in the idea of economic growth. But let's see in detail what's a linear economy and what's a circular economy. Firstly, linear economy and circular economy are two models of production and consumption. The difference between the two models is substantial.
Our modern world, built on advanced, sophisticated technology. Let's go back to where it all began. The Industrial Revolution, dawn of the modern age. A time of mass production, of faster, bigger, better. A time when raw materials seemed limitless. When pollution and toxic byproducts were the price of progress. A process reliant on cheap labor. A system of take, make, dispose. A system we still use today. We make almost everything in our modern, sophisticated, advanced world in the same linear Victorian way. But our population is growing. Our resources are not. We can't maintain this take, make, dispose model. What's the solution?
So, what's the solution? The solution is a circular economy. Circular economy instead involves sharing, leasing, reusing, repairing, refurbishing, and recycling existing materials in order to keep them in life as long as possible. In this way, we reduce the waste at minimum and recreate further value, with the final aim of reducing greenhouse emissions and the CO2 emissions. So we are talking about waste prevention, eco-design, and reuse. Well, besides the benefit it brings to the environment, it also brings benefits to the economy. We can say that it must be profitable, otherwise it would be 100 times harder to convince society to change. So, a circular economy can improve the security of the supply of raw materials, increase competitiveness, stimulate innovation, and create new jobs. On the other hand, the market can offer consumers more durable and innovative products. As a consequence, this will increase the quality of life and save them money in the long term.
Nowadays, the main energy sources are gas for the 38%, oil for the same percentage, coal for the 10%, and renewable energy only for the 13%. Thanks to the Kyoto Protocol, signed in 1997, 192 countries are reducing their emissions of greenhouse gases, the main cause of climate change. Big changes are needed because the main energy producers in the world are three among the biggest countries. The USA produces natural geothermal gas and nuclear energy, China produces coal but also wind and solar energy, and Saudi Arabia is the main producer of petroleum. Some of the green alternative options available are photovoltaic energy, wind energy, and hydroelectric energy. All these are renewable energy sources that match the current demand for clean energy because they are sustainable and reduce fossil fuels consumptions. They are a progress element in the creation of a collaborative society because, being natural sources, they are completely free and anybody can take advantage of them. They are also a kind of technological development and they allow different kinds of applications.
Profit is a big problem. Imagine that you are the CEO of a company that produces light bulbs. Now, people need to buy to replace their older light bulbs, so would you accept producing more durable light bulbs? Certainly no, or not easily, because then people will need less light bulbs, so your profit will decrease a lot. This would be the same in many other markets, for example the market of telephones, and not only for the profit but also for the workers, because less demand would cause unemployment. Other problem could search for purveyors of fossil fuels, minerals, agricultural produce and other primary materials, the demand for which would suffer. If we can eliminate 1.3 billion tons of the waste of food, for example, that would mean 750 billion pounds less in the sales for farmers. Also for renewable energy, we have the problem with capital cost. Even though the average cost for energy from renewable sources is less than the cost of energy from non-renewable sources, people still don't use renewable energy because of the cost of building the technology. For the same reason, financial institutions could find the renewables as risky, and as a consequence they would lend money at higher rates. Other problems with the renewable energy could be setting the plans that includes negotiation, contracts, permits, and a lot of things to have a piece of land, and also a problem of transmission of the power. Furthermore, unemployment problems can influence the poorer places where workers found employment in manufacturing. For example, research found that the donation of clothes in Africa harmed Africans' clothing production. Between 1988 and 2001, the circulation of used Western Gap caused half part of unemployment in this sector and the 2/5 of its decline. This made some countries forbid imports of second-hand clothing. The rest are social problems. Seeing that circular economy implies reusing what's possible, that means that we need good communication and cooperation between companies that use the waste of each other. Actually, we have some companies that exist to help collaboration and collective action. For example, PACE, Platform for Accelerating the Circular Economy, as well as Ellen MacArthur Foundation and the Closed Loop Partners Center for Circular Economy. Finally, consumers should do their part too. We need a change of mentality in purchasing goods, an acceptance of the idea of reuse and recycling, and a culture-wide rethinking. Despite the obstacles, let's see the forecasts. The International Resource Panel, which is an independent body under the auspices of the UN Environment Programme, estimates that a wiser use of resources could add $2 trillion, or almost the Italian GDP, to the global economy by 2050. Moreover, limiting food waste alone could contribute $252 billion a year by 2030. Nevertheless, a green economy would bring more green industries, such as the recycling industries, adding jobs in these areas. The University of Augsburg found that the related job creation outweighs job destruction. Finally, the circular economy is now promoted by the European Union, which made a plan in March 2020, so this is a good thing.
First of all, we're going to talk about the Industrial Revolution we are living in. The prospect is optimistic because nowadays we are living in the middle of the so-called Fourth Industrial Revolution. The third revolution, the digital one, occurred in the middle of the last century. However, now we're entering a new phase of fusion of technologies that connects the physical, the digital, and the biological systems. According to some experts, the Fourth Industrial Revolution doesn't change what we are doing, it changes us. It is based on realizing the potential of the human brain and using it to ameliorate our condition. The Fourth Industrial Revolution's goal is not maximizing the profit, but improving human well-being by meeting the basic needs of every human on the planet, recreating a fairer reality in taking care of the environment. This project is based on technological development. Thanks to mobile devices with unprecedented processing power, storage capacity, and access to knowledge, a larger number of people are more connected than before and have access to a larger number of possibilities. Moreover, some emerging technological fields are already living the process, such as artificial intelligence, robotics, the Internet of Things, autonomous vehicles, 3D printing, nanotechnology, biotechnology, material science, energy storage, and quantum computing. In the design sector, for example, the goal is not anymore designing the less monotonous building possible, but conceiving new structures to build safer, healthier cities that have a low environmental impact to live in a cleaner world. Cities are transforming also from another point of view. Even though nowadays we are all more connected, we still need places to meet in person. This is leading to more efficient public structures, for example thanks to 3D printers, to supply enough to satisfy a constantly changing and increasing demand. From an ecological point of view, abandoning plastics is one of the first things needed to save our planet. This is why technology is used in the biological sphere to create some alternatives to common-use plastics. Robotics and medical skills could guarantee a cure for paralysis thanks to electrical stimulus to the spine, or genome editing can significantly help studying cancer. The Fourth Industrial Revolution will be an energy revolution too. We have access to enough energy technology that can power us in a clean and collective way, bringing an end to the consumption of fossil fuels. Solar, wind, biomass energies can be easily moved from where they are stored, thanks to weather and disposability conditions, to where they are needed, creating a sort of energy integration and supplying it at all times. The only disadvantage of this industrial revolution is that using technologies will lower the demand for human workers and increase the unemployment rate. However, it may be an apparent disadvantage because a new definition of work and new kinds of jobs may derive from these big changes in the system. The experts believe that potentiating education is key because nowadays younger people have access to wider amounts of knowledge than in the past, and it is fundamental to take advantage of this.
I've just given a prize to a kid of 18 years old that has discovered something really very, very unique. Came up with how to get better productivity and better yields for seeds of corn. And so he basically came with the idea that if you would perforate these seeds, you would get more food. And you think about it and say, but he didn't go to university. So how does he get all that knowledge? And he told me, I've been watching YouTube since the age of 12 and I'm so interested that I've seen everything about it. I've read everything about it. The world is really open to learning. The thing is, how do you give the incentive to your kids to do that?
So, we can say that all this process that derives from the Fourth Industrial Revolution, together with the circular economy, will contribute to create a new economic model that is different from both communism and consumerism. A new system based on connections that enables us to cooperate and condivide our resources. This system originates from the collaborative commons and is called the zero marginal cost economy. Marginal costs are the costs of producing an additional unit of goods and services after your fixed costs are covered. In a zero marginal cost economy, marginal costs are reduced or are nearly zero. Now, the communication internet is expanding to an Internet of Things. We have, in one platform, three internets connected: the communication internet, the energy internet, and the transport and logistic internet. In the Internet of Things, we are moving from bits to atoms. Millions of consumers will be able to produce their own physical goods and services and to exchange them like they do now with information goods. For example, in Europe, a lot of companies are starting to print their own products with 3D printers. This is an example of zero marginal cost production. Downloading the software is free, recycled products can be used as raw material, and after having paid a short fee for the 3D printer, it can be powered with renewable energy. In this context, social commons are designed to be the soulmate of the Internet of Things. Social commons include institutions and structures that we created as ways to organize our world. They can be educational, cultural, sanitary, and are ignored by the economists because they don't create profit, but social capital. However, in a zero marginal cost society, the social life scales laterally and not vertically to create a collaborative, sharing community. This is why, if we have enough resources to create our own products, the people that lose their jobs because of the technological improvement will be employed in the social commons, where human beings create connections with other human beings. The zero marginal cost society might have a bad effect on GDP, but it will have a good effect on the quality of life, and that's what measures a good economy.
As Irene said, zero marginal cost society would have a bad impact on GDP. That's obvious. The expression itself, zero marginal cost society, means less economy. Marginal cost is indeed the cost of producing an additional unit of good and service after your fixed cost is covered. When this cost is near zero, this means that the product will cost little to the consumers. On the other hand, using only technological machines means that we don't need to hire people anymore. So that's unemployment that can lead to less circulation of money and to a consequent market failure, and then a recession in GDP. When we talk about market failure, we intend when the price mechanism fails to achieve an efficient allocation of resources. But if we think about what has been said before, in a zero marginal cost society, the allocation of resources will be decided by each of us. We will be prosumer, both producer and consumer, and we will share what we produce to other people so they don't have to produce it anymore. Taking out the problem of market failure in a zero marginal cost society, we can say that the disorders and derangements can be the effects at the very beginning. Over time, we will no longer depend on money, and the economic model will be based on the creation of welfare with only our skills. Then, the concrete disadvantage in this system would be negative externalities. In a zero marginal cost society where each of us can produce whatever we want, the risk is the production of harmful goods and services. For example, illegal drugs would be accessible to everyone, as well as guns. In this perspective, we still need regulations. But normally we make regulations in order to protect our interests. So who should make regulations in a society where the interests are protected? I mean, everything is shared. Why should I care for you if I am good with my life? Then we need government intervention. The state should intervene because it has to protect the collective interest, so it can't permit the population falling from a psychological point of view because of drugs, as well as it can't permit criminality rising because of the sale of guns. So zero marginal cost society doesn't mean heaven. It it really depends on each of us.
So, as a conclusion, what step are we at? Well, numerous laws, national, European, and internationals, have been enacted. In Italy, the Ministry of Ecological Transition has just been instituted in 2021 in substitution of the Ministry of the Environment and Land and Sea Protection, instituted in 1986. If we go on its official website, we can find all the conventions and regulations made, both national and international, divided in themes. So here are the themes all regarding the pollutions, but they are only big chapters. If we click on one of them, it is much more detailed and you can find all the laws made for that topic. Also, on an international level, we have COP, which is the Conference of Parties. A very important COP was COP21, which took place in Paris in 2015. From there, the Paris Agreement, very important because for the first time all the representatives agreed to limit global warming, accepting to invest more money for this. The latest COP has been COP26, a climate change conference held in Glasgow between the 31st of October and the 12th of November 2021. At this conference, there were leaders of the countries, but also negotiators, government representatives, businesses, and citizens. And here is the official side of the conference. So, what are the goals of COP26? Almost the same. In this section, we can see them. Keep the temperature stable, protect communities and natural habitats, mobilize finance, work together, as we said before, talking about the circular economy. So we think that it has been useful because even though it was a sort of reminder, the discussions they made between countries are precious. Communication is the first step before action, and only if we all are convinced of it, we will make bigger progress.